You are listening to the Mark Lesko Podcast, a podcast by diehard fans for fans. Mark covers all things Penn State football and the Pittsburgh Steelers, as well as anything related to the sports and fitness world. Tune in weekly to listen to a couple of dedicated fans talk about these topics without filters. Thank you for listening to the Mark Lesko Podcast.
All right, guys. Sorry, didn't have the camera ready. So, once again, welcome back in to the Mark Lesko Podcast. Talking the latest Steelers news. Yeah. So I'm going to play this clip from All Steelers Talk. I hate being a Steelers fan sometimes. I really do. Man, it is not what it used to be. Wow. I used to be proud to be a Steelers fan. I used to be excited about the Steelers. And now it's just like never-ending misery. It has been a joke the past few years. An absolute joke. Even when Big Ben was later on his career, it's been a joke. So now we might be getting Jameis Winston. The Steelers have really put themselves in a tough spot here with Russ probably leaving. They got rid of Justin Fields. Don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. We're waiting on him. And now their plan B, I guess, is like Mason Rudolph or Jameis Winston. If Mason Rudolph is our quarterback, it's going to be the same song and dance next year, maybe win a playoff game. Jameis Winston is our quarterback. Guess silver lining, we might have a good pick in the draft, although I guess our defense is probably too good for that. But it's just a never-ending cycle of misery. This sucks. It really does. Mason Rudolph is not winning us a Super Bowl. I'm not real happy they brought him back. If you're like, I don't get it, man. There's guys saying in comment sections like they're happy Mason Rudolph is back. Are you kidding me right now? And then Jameis Winston. I'm going to show you some of these comments on this post, on this video. It's crazy. I don't think any of you guys are historically Steelers fans. Some of you saying some of the stuff you're saying. Like, do you know anything about the Steelers? All right. So I'm like editing a video right now in DaVinci, so it's probably slowing it down a little bit.
Mike Florio and Jerry Dulac dropped a couple of names that could also be on the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll start with
Sorry, guys.
Mike Florio's because it's wild. I mean, does it surprise you? But it's wild. And all respect to Mike Florio, but he said pretty certainly to be honest, that if Aaron Rodgers is not coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers, you want to know who is? Jameis Winston. Because he could sling the rock to both George Pickens and DK Metcalf. He's exactly what you need for those guys. That's what he said. And he, again, said it with such certainty that that is the move after Aaron Rodgers. Meanwhile, Jerry Dulac named 2 rookie quarterbacks who could be on the horizon here. Jackson Dart and Will Howard. We'll toss 2 more in there, Quinn Ewers and Jalen Milroe, because we know the Steelers have interest to those as well. We'll start with Jameis Winston. What? That's my biggest response. How did we get here? Jameis Winston would be cool. He'd be fun. We've joked about him in the past. I love Jameis. I think he's hilarious. I don't think he's the worst quarterback in the world. I definitely don't. But if we're going to be very honest, Mason Rudolph probably.
I think all that stuff that people are like, oh, this is hilarious. Like, he's so funny, Jameis Winston. I think it's really dumb and it's weird. I don't know. It's not funny. Yeah, it's not funny. People say national treasure. I hate that term. National treasure. He's a national treasure. Really? You're a moron.
Probably wins you a Super Bowl before Jameis Winston does. If you gave it 100 tries, I would imagine that even in the grand, somehow it doesn't come down to Mason winning the Super Bowl. It comes down to you see you could already visualize Jameis throwing the interception in the Super Bowl that costs you the Super Bowl. Yeah. Mason at least isn't going to do that.
Dude, we're not going to a Super Bowl with Jameis Winston as a quarterback. We're not even probably making the playoffs.
Mason will bare minimum you as far as you could possibly carry him. Jameis is going to carry you as far as Jameis can carry you. The Steelers are
Mason Rudolph is Timu Brock Purdy.
Aware of this. They're not. Mike Tomlin did not allow Russell Wilson to call plays at the line of scrimmage, did not tell Justin Fields to do literally nothing but throw it to George Pickens or run the football conservatively, and controlled every aspect of Kenny Pickett for 2 years just to say Jameis is the guy. That's the one we're going to let loose. That's the guy that we're making the change here. It doesn't follow the philosophy at all of the Pittsburgh.
Dude, this almost looks like, I like this channel. I like this guy, but this almost looks like a parody. Like, is that the same person in the lower right? Is that his brother or something? Who is it? This looks like a Danny Goodwin parody video right now.
Pittsburgh Steelers. Mason Rudolph does a little bit, but Jameis does not. But at the same time, in Florio's defense here, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is not a Steelers quarterback at all.
Dude, I don't know what you guys talk.
Does it surprise you? But
how is he not a Steelers quarterback? Because he has drama? He's a Steelers quarterback, dude. Are you kidding me? I think he absolutely is. He's a hardworking, good quarterback. What does this guy talk about?
But it's wild. And all respect to Mike Florio, but he said into a Super Bowl before Jameis Winston does. Mason at least isn't going to do that. Mason will.
I must have restarted it, sorry.
Not tell Justin Fields to do literally nothing but throw it to George Pickens or run the football conservatively, and controlled every aspect of Kenny Pickett for 2 years just to say Jameis is the guy. That's the one we're going to let loose. That's the guy that we're making the change here. It doesn't follow the philosophy at all of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mason Rudolph does a little bit, but Jameis does not. But at the same time, in Florio's defense here, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is not a Steelers quarterback at all. A Steelers quarterback. And Mike Tomlin has said, screw it. We just got to try and figure this thing out. Maybe Jameis is a name that's bigger than Mason Rudolph's, and maybe comes in here
Dude,
as
we're like a week
a
into
plan
free
B.
agency.
Do you see it at
I don't
all?
think
We've
Mike
talked about
Tomlin
Jameis before, but I'm telling you, with such certainty, Mike Florio
just got to be
said
more patient.
Jameis Winston's name. And you got to ask, like, do you think there's some truth to that?
I mean, that is an example of say anything with enough confidence and some people will believe it. No,
100%.
I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers would look into Jameis Winston. And you said, maybe they're opening up. Maybe Mike Tomlin is saying we have to kind of change things up because he's going after Aaron Rodgers. It is mighty different going after a guy who is a 4-time MVP. And one of those times was as frequently as 3 years ago. And saying maybe he has one last year, one last ride left in the tank, and going with a guy who averages the same amount of interceptions that he has touchdowns. Now, in that record, he also does throw a lot of touchdowns. He does throw for a lot of yards. Let's not forget that he put Jerry Jeudy on the map as one of the top 5 wide receivers in the game for several weeks throughout last season. That's who Jameis Winston can be at his best. At his worst, your defense is going to look over to the other side of the ball and say, I don't think we even want to play. Can we just put up the 7 for the other team? Because we're out there the entire 60-minute game. So I don't think the Steelers would go for Jameis Winston. It just doesn't fit with what they have done to this point in the offseason. That feels like a move that you make when you're saying, hey, we just need guys to fill out the quarterback room. The Steelers are trying to find an answer. And the fact that they already brought in Skylar Thompson on the first day of the entire offseason, they already brought in Mason Rudolph, and they've shown so much interest in this rookie quarterback class. Whether you like it or not, they've shown the interest. It feels to me that going after Jameis just doesn't quite fit everything that we've seen from them throughout this offseason so far.
I agree. And to be honest with you, like, I agree, but I also disagree because everything they've done this offseason is so anti what the Steelers do that it just doesn't make any sense. But I agree with you that it's not a move that the Steelers do. Like, it doesn't tie into anything that the Steelers philosophy says it would, or that Mike Tomlin's go-to says that it would. Like, that's not a Mike Tomlin, Pittsburgh Steelers, Art Rooney, Omar Khan move. Like, there's nobody out there in the Pittsburgh Steelers organization that you say, that he would do that, because you could look at all the rest of them and it makes sense. Aaron Rodgers, that's a Mike Tomlin move. All day, that's a Mike Tomlin move. That he probably sent him the gif of him and Rodgers just smiling at each other, saying, come on, buddy. You want to come to Pittsburgh. You want to come to Pittsburgh. DK Metcalf, that's Omar Khan ready to make a splash, but also Mike Tomlin drooling at the idea of DK Metcalf. Mm-hmm. That's a move, Keeping Arthur Smith, drafting Kenny Pickett, hiring Matt Canada, Art Rooney moves. Spot, like, you know what I mean? That's Pittsburgh blood right there. That's how we do these things. Keeping Najee Harris, the starter all season long, Art Rooney / Mike Tomlin move. Jameis Winston fits none of these. Like, not a single one. Mason Rudolph fits the Art Rooney, Omar Khan side of things. I think maybe Mike Tomlin, but like, you got to think maybe they hate each other. I have no idea.
Come on now. I mean, Mike Tomlin turned to him at the end of 2023 and gave him a playoff game. Like, he went with him over a healthy Kenny Pickett.
I agree. That has to earn
some brownie points in Mason's eyes, and he came back. So you can't hate the head coach if you're coming back for a third time.
I agree. And I love Mason. I think Mason's a great dude, but I mean, like, was that a big enough bone to say you've disrespected me so many times in the last 3 years that, I don't know. Maybe. You might be right. You're not going to re-sign with the team for 2 years saying, I hate this place. There's got to be something there. And maybe Mason's turn of the tide is as strong as the fan base's turn of the tide towards him, because, he is a local hero in the city of Pittsburgh right now. That is what he currently is, possibly saving.
I'm going to get through some of these comments. Make Rudolph starting quarterback, draft a rookie out of the draft class that you can groom and teach the NFL way. Yeah, that's a horrible idea. This draft class is horrendous at quarterback. If you want to go young, you go Arch Manning next year or Drew Aller. Jameis Winston might put up 500 yards a game. I could just imagine Steelers going 7-0 and then Jameis Winston throwing 2 5-interception games in a row, and then he gets pulled. Forget Rodgers. Forget Winston. Let Rudolph start. Draft Art. That's all. I don't even know where to start. Mike Florio said this apparently about Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is more of a backup than Mason, and Mason would be your starter. Mason throws that same Super Bowl pick every time. Yep. Tomlin would not let Winston throw the ball. The last time I remember him telling a QB to do his thing was Mason. Tomlin's number one pet peeve is turnovers. Well, if you're not going to throw the ball, then you're going to have two diva mad receivers in DK and Pickens. Lord, I pray he does not deliver us, Jameis. Please don't bring in Winston. He's not good. If they don't get Rodgers, just start Mason and draft someone. This one, I think, is the one I was talking about. Stay with Mason. Draft Will Howard or Dart. That is horrible, Linda. What are you talking about? Mason will do a good job without the extreme money and drama that Rodgers presents. He would cause a lot of trouble in the locker room, as Wilson did, even much more. I doubt that. I don't think we're getting a drama-filled Aaron Rodgers. People talk about what he says. I talked about this last night. I think it's a mix between he likes the attention and whatever he says, people just blow out of the water, media-wise. Absolutely agree. Okay, Glenn. What trouble in the locker room? Everyone that plays with him seemed to like him. DK want Rodgers. Here, same as several other Steelers. Yep. Roll with Mason and get Joe Milton to back him up and draft a QB next year. This year's class is not good. Joe Milton. Tyler Show might be the future. Will Howard is going to be the next Tom Brady watch. Wow. I like him. He's 26 years old, hurt all the time. Will Howard is the best quarterback for the Steelers. Oh, my goodness. I say start Rudolph and trade for Joe Milton. Wow. I'm a 60-plus year Steelers fan. This version of the Rooney family sucks. Dan Rooney III has screwed the fans for the last 10 years. Fact, it's time they get out of running this team. He is tied to that place of garbage. Mike Tomlin for a decade, like cancer. It's time to rebuild from top to bottom. Well, that's a run-on sentence. Without a period. Will Howard before Jackson Dart is another Kenny Pickett. That's not good. Mike Florio is not plugged into the Steelers headquarters. Joe Milton and Tyler Show. Yeah, so horrible takes. Some of the worst takes I've ever heard in my life. This is a horrible QB draft class. They should not do a quarterback in this draft. They need to get Rodgers. That's it. Rodgers helps us compete for a Super Bowl. Mason could be anywhere from maybe winning a playoff game to being horrendous. Jameis, like the one comment said, could go 7-0 and then lose the rest of the games. He's not a Super Bowl quarterback. Aaron Rodgers can help us contend for a Super Bowl. One nice thing about Rodgers, he's older. He can help us contend for a Super Bowl, or we will maybe crash and burn and have a good draft pick. And then we'll be able to get Arch Manning next year. Aaron Rodgers comes in, whether he's successful or not, could set us up to get a young quarterback in the draft next year. That's going to be a loaded QB draft class. All right. These takes are horrendous. None of you know what you're talking about. This guy saying that Noah Stack, what's his name? Noah Stack.
To the Super Bowl.
Stackman, and Nick Betsky. Saying Aaron Rodgers is not a Steelers quarterback that's just laughable. Yes, he is. He's a hard worker, a good quarterback. And I think if he could just get our receivers the ball, they would mesh pretty well. We do need a quarterback. I've heard Joe Mixon maybe. A running back, we need Joe Mixon. We could get Ollie Gordon in the draft. There's some running backs we can get in the draft. We need a running back. We need a quarterback. The Steelers put themselves in a really tough spot right now. And again, I hate being a Steelers fan sometimes. I really do. It's not what it used to be. The fact that they're in this position is pathetic. It's unreal that we're even having this discussion. If you're Aaron Rodgers, I heard that the Giants really dropped him a bag. If you're Aaron Rodgers and you don't come to the Steelers, I think you're crazy. Either retire or go to the Steelers. You have the best chance of winning a Super Bowl with the Steelers. Come to the Steelers. That's it. There's nothing else for me to say. Again, with Aaron Rodgers, I think it's a little bit of both. He likes the attention. He likes being in the storylines. And what he says just gets blown out of the water every time he says something. Every time he says something, it gets blown out of the water. What you could do as media is just ignore him. They won't do that, but you could just ignore him, not give him the attention that he wants. Just stop blowing up everything he says. That's it. He is who he is. He's a grown man. He can say what he wants, do what he wants. And I think if he comes to the Steelers, they can win a Super Bowl. That's it. So that's my thoughts on that. That's the Daily Show for today. Aaron Rodgers, make your decision. Come to the Steelers, contend for a Super Bowl. You're not going to do that in Minnesota, truly. You're not going to do it with the Giants. Your best chance of winning a Super Bowl, if you do come back, is going to the Steelers. That's it. That's my message to Aaron Rodgers. So that's the Daily Show. I don't know if we're doing a Penn State show today. Brett has the flu. I'll keep you guys in the loop with that. But, yeah, just interviewed Rob Ashinsky from Victory Sports again. Probably only going to throw that on Rumble because YouTube would probably demonetize it for what we were talking about. And eventually I'm probably going to go Rumble full time because YouTube is crazy with just copyright and you can't say what you want. And YouTube it's a circus. So I'm not going to get into too much detail, but YouTube is really bad with that stuff. Rumble, you can say what you want. So keep an eye out for that. But Aaron Rodgers, make a decision, come to the Steelers. Do it. Just do it now, man. Just end it, and you're good. Come to the Steelers. All right, everybody. Have a good day.